Being a Chicago Bulls fan is like being a cuck. As someone who's had the unfortunate honor of being a Chicago Bulls fan for my entire life, and as someone who's been born after the year 1998, there's legitimately been nothing good that has come out of that team in any capacity in any way other than a single MVP season. But it's literally just been sheer disappointment my entire life. That's really all it has been. And I kind of want to talk about just why I was spurred to make this video and just the entire experience of being a Chicago Bulls fan. Why the hell am I making this analogy? Why would I ever think about this way of comparing up being a Bulls fan to being a cuck? I kind of had this epiphany after watching Ayo Dosunmu drop 40 points in the playoffs off the bench in one of the craziest performances we'll probably see all year, especially one of the most clutch and also the most important game I think of Ayo Dosunmu's career, even though I'm pretty sure he's made the playoffs with the Chicago Bulls, but we got fucking annihilated, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, let me just kind of go through a history of being a Bulls fan through my point of view. So I was born in the old year of 2003. I am 22 years of age. So I was 5 years old when we got the first overall pick and drafted Derrick Rose. And, we thought, hey, maybe we're going up from there. That's kind of when I first maybe started watching basketball a little bit, watching, the game with my family and all that stuff. And it was looking good. He won the youngest MVP in the entire NBA history. And then he fucking tore his knee up in a game that he shouldn't have been in because Tom Thibodeau is a terrorist when it comes to making sure that his star players are okay. And also because Derrick Rose didn't really know how to land properly, and it was a long time coming that he finally destroyed the fuck out of his knee. And because of that, he was never the same player again, especially because he did that shit again a second time. And just even though, potentially what could have been the Bulls' best era since Michael Jordan just completely collapsed because their star player's knee exploded inside of itself. But it's okay. During the years in which we were the best team, when Derrick Rose MVP, when we were the 1 seed, the draft following that year, even though we didn't win the finals, we got Jimmy Butler as the 30th overall pick. What this turned out to be was an absolutely insane steal. Jimmy Butler turned out to be an all-star and later on turned out to be a superstar. The issue is that when he made his final ascent to superstardom for a couple years, he wasn't even on the fucking team. He got traded to the Timberwolves, and one of the most sad days I've ever had as a Bulls fan because, Jimmy Butler is my favorite NBA player, I think, of all time. Because guess what? I grew up watching him, and I grew up, and he was good. And before I talk about the rest of that trade, let's look at Jimmy Butler's career path. Goes to the Timberwolves, doesn't really want to be there, has that famous, locker or a practice thing where he takes the third stream, shit-talks his team the entire time, leaves, and then goes on to an interview. But he does at least give the Timberwolves their first playoff game victory in a decade or so. Goes to the Sixers, leads them to the playoffs, and then they have the Kawhi Leonard Game 7-3. Just, triple bounce. Some people say he traveled. I don't really care. Then he goes to the Heat, and this is where he becomes legitimately one of the best players when it comes to the playoffs. Leads the Miami Heat to the finals as a 6th seed and during the bubble, and I think they're 2 games off of winning the championship, and he dropped 50 points in the finals. After that, leads the Heat to the 8th seed as an 8th seed to the finals against the Nuggets. They also lose there. But still, I get to see a player who I grew up loving and grew up really enjoying watching, who used to be on my favorite team, make the playoffs and win playoff series and actually have a chance at winning the finals. Well, my team is tanking and rebuilding. Now, I have nothing against rebuilding. I saw the Chicago Cubs do it, and they won a World Series. But the Bulls cannot do that shit. Let's look at the players that they got in the rebuild. Lauri Markkanen. He's a pretty damn good player on the Utah Jazz. The issue, he's on the Utah Jazz. He's not that good. He wasn't that good as on the Bulls. Because why? The Bulls organization from a top down legitimately just did not know how to develop him properly. Especially because they had Jim Boylan as a coach for a year or some shit. And he was literally a terrorist on the basketball court when it came to coaching. He was literally one of the worst coaches I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And because of that, they failed developing, got traded to Cleveland, they got traded to the Jazz. And then literally in his first year as the number 1 option who, is able to get his time on the court, he becomes an all-star. Then he had kind of a shit year, but then he kind of did good again. But the Jazz was trying to tank, so he didn't really play much at all. But another player who I really enjoyed watching, I thought was going to be the next big things for the Bulls, got traded away. Wendell Carter Jr., drafted by the Bulls, traded away for Nikola Vucevic. He honestly becomes a lot better piece and would have been a lot more valuable for the Bulls to have, especially because another pick that they traded to the Magic for Nikola Vucevic ended up being Franz Wagner, who also probably would have been a better piece for the Bulls other than Nikola Vucevic. Quite unfortunate. We had DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, and Nikola Vucevic as our team. And then when they played together for a little bit, they were the 1 seed, except for they entirely overperformed the entire season and then completely collapsed and then were never good again. But now we have 3 examples of holding on to a player who was on the Chicago Bulls who, I would like to succeed, and I have no ill will against them because they were traded away due to the Bulls being an entirely incompetent organization. Succeeding without us, having a better time without us. And I think the only player like really we can't even get the verdict out now is Kobe White because he literally only played like maybe 3 or 4 weeks with the fucking Charlotte Hornets and they lost in the playing game. So like, maybe he's not better than us, but Kobe White has been a permanently locked in the playing game player of all time. But he's also a player I want to see succeed. And this kind of leads me to like the last thing I want to talk about before I, fully wrap up my analogy is Ayo Dosunmu. I think if, you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you know that he was good. You know that he was a really good player and massively underrated by the rest of the entire NBA. You know he was really nice and like he did more than what I think a lot of people gave him credit for, especially like with the advanced statistics. And then you see him go out. Anthony Edwards goes down. Dante DiVincenzo goes down. He's basically like probably one of the number one options on the team offensively at this point. And he goes out and drops 43 and misses like only 4 shots, and basically making it so that the Wolves are poised up to go to the next round. This kind of exact moment happening made me realize the entire experience I've had with the Chicago Bulls is seeing my favorite players succeed in an environment where they are not on my team. It's basically like being a cuck because like the players that you have are good. You want to see them succeed with you. You want to grow together and have a wonderful relationship. But you also like understand and enjoy them, flourishing and doing a lot better on a team that is not yours. They're having a good time with another person, and it looks like it's a lot better for them. And as a result, you get to just sit there in the chair in the hotel room and watch and say, "This is good for the both of us." They would have just been suffering with me, and at least our relationship can thrive if another person treats you better. That's literally how it has been. The Chicago Bulls are the cucks of the NBA. They find good talent, they find people who can succeed, but they fail at every opportunity to, have success with the people they find. It's just how it is. The Bulls have entirely upended their, development staff, their management team, with firing our general manager and Billy Donovan stepping down. Maybe we won't be the cucks of the NBA anymore. We're projected to have a lottery pick. Maybe Adam Silver rigs us, so we have like a top 4 pick in this absolutely loaded draft. And we also have another pick of the Portland Trailblazers. Maybe we also snipe another person once again in this loaded draft. And as someone who has been a Bulls fan his entire life from 2003 to 2026 and counting, we're just the cucks of the NBA. That's all we are. We just have to watch our players succeed with someone else and smile while it happens because that's just what it is. That's just how it is. That's really an unfortunate fact that I've had to deal with throughout the entirety of my Bulls fandom is people doing better when they're not on my team. And even though I'm saying, and I'm screaming to the hills, these players are good. These players are really good. Their marketing's not shit. He's just on the Chicago Bulls. I swear. Ayo Dosunmu, the stats hate him, but he's a good player. He's just on the Chicago Bulls. I swear to God, everybody. I promise you. I really promise you. We have good choices. We make good decisions. It's just that, we're getting cucked by the organization that we're in. What a video I made here. Hopefully, like, any Bulls fans that may see this kind of agrees with me and kind of agrees with my analogy that we are, in fact, the cucks of the NBA so far. Maybe we'll move on to greater things and actually, like, be able to participate in, like, the goodness of our players. But right now, maybe not. I have a lot of market in Utah Jazz jersey. That's how cucked I am. That's really all I got to say for today. So, thank you for watching. Goodbye.